Well, since people like my retrospective on the Wii U, I thought I should finally get around to doing one for its more successful older brother, the Wii. It's mind-blowing to think that this system, which was hyped as a revolution in gaming, came out almost 12 years ago. And now we have the Switch, which I think is a better system, but let's look back at the lifetime of the Nintendo Wii. In the year 2005, the same year that Microsoft was launching the Xbox 360, Nintendo took to the stage at E3 and unveiled the Nintendo Revolution. Yes, that was its code name up until the following year when it was fully revealed as the Nintendo Wii. I remember my friends and I being super excited hearing that name, Nintendo Revolution. And I also remember feeling a bit disappointed that Nintendo didn't just stick with that name because I thought Wii sounded like a system that was only aimed at kids, which probably didn't help the system's kiddie reputation. But the name does make sense for what Nintendo was going for with that system. It was marketed as a system that core gamers could play with casual gamers and people who don't normally play video games at all, hence the name Wii, as in we would like to play. Remember those commercials that they showed almost 10 years ago? It was this amazing new device with motion controls so that core gamers could feel more immersion in swinging swords or shooting guns, as first shown in Ubisoft's game Red Steel, but also something that kept games simple, so you could play a lot of games by moving the controller itself rather than memorizing a bunch of buttons, which, let's be real, a lot of non-gamers, especially back then, had a hard time with. A great example of this was the popular Just Dance series. It was a series that started out on the Wii thanks to its motion controls. You didn't have to memorize any buttons, you just had to move your controller to match dance moves on the screen. It quickly became one of the go-to party games. This was all very new to the public, and it worked very well in Nintendo's favor. When the Wii launched, it was already selling like crazy. A lot of families wanted a Wii in their living rooms. It got kids and parents to play games together. It got elderly people into video games because of the ease of the motion controls. It got people wanting to stand up and play video games instead of sitting on the couch the whole time. Wii Fit contributed to this more by actually telling people to get up off their couches and exercise with a gaming system. So the Wii became beneficial to people's health too, at least another option for getting exercise. It also came out at just the right time because gaming on smartphones still was years away from catching on with casual players. The first iPhone didn't even come out until 2007, and even then smartphone gaming didn't really become popular until the start of this decade. So the best place for casual gamers and non-gamers to go was the Wii. And luckily the Wii had a great launch window of games that showed off the new concepts in easy to understand ways while also having some titles aimed at more core players. Games like Red Steel, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, and Call of Duty 3 were great games for bringing in core players, and the big game that comes to mind for appealing to everyone and getting families to play together is Wii Sports. It came bundled with the system. It was a compilation of 5 sports games that demoed motion controls in great and fun ways. It was a fun sports game for everyone. It was basically a glorified tech demo, but in a good way. 4 out of 5 of the sports allowed for up to 4 players. There were bots for games that always needed more than one person playing. It was a great game to launch the system with. Along with all this motion control fun, there were other features that made the Wii feel like a significant step forward for Nintendo. They finally embraced online multiplayer. The Wii had other channels so you could watch Netflix and YouTube, look up weather and news, surf the web, and make your own Miis. Nintendo decided this was the time to let people make their own avatars that would be used in multiple Wii titles. It was popular because it was a way to personalize your Wii, and it was hilarious to see the animations of the Miis in games where you actually played as your Mii, to the point where people have made little tributes to Wii Sports. The internet. But another great channel the Wii had was the Wii Shop channel, a place where you could download WiiWare games, indie games or just lower budget titles, and retro games. This was Nintendo's first home console that let you download classic titles onto it and play those titles with a Wii Classic controller, a controller that also worked for several other core Wii games. Nintendo put NES, SNES, and N64 games up for download so that anyone who didn't have the original versions could just pay $10 or $20 to legally download them. I really liked this because now I was able to get Kirby 64, which I rented but didn't actually buy back when it came out, and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which was a game I didn't really care to play until I got The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess on the Wii and really liked it. But if you didn't want to play these classics with a classic controller, good news! The Wii was backwards compatible with GameCube games and controllers. Thanks to this, you could play all the Wii and GameCube games on the same system, which for me is quite a lot of games, especially from the GameCube. But this was also great for multiplayer games like Mario Kart Wii and Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which were compatible with virtually every controller that worked on the Wii. So if you were more comfortable playing certain games with a GameCube controller, some games gave you that option. So the Wii had quite a lot to offer at a great price. It was the cheapest system of its generation at $250. That's almost a steal for such a new and loaded gaming system. But that was another part of Nintendo attempting to appeal to families and players of all ages, and it worked. Adding more incentive to buy the system was that the Wii was also getting games that the GameCube missed out on, either because developers liked the motion controls or because it was a popular system, unlike the GameCube, which sadly didn't sell nearly as well as it should have. So it got games like Mortal Kombat Armageddon and The Godfather Black Hand Edition, it got a remastered version of Resident Evil 4 that added all the content of the PS2 version, and Nintendo cranked out great first-party games like Mario Galaxy and Metroid Prime 3 as well. In many ways, the Wii seemed like it was trying to make up for the success the GameCube didn't achieve, and boy did it succeed. The Wii became one of Nintendo's best-selling consoles. In its lifetime, it sold 101 million units, being beaten in home console terms only by the PlayStation 1 and 2. So why is it that a lot of core gamers talk about the Wii as though it was garbage? Well, to be frank, the Wii had its shortcomings. The biggest one being its lack of power. It was only slightly more powerful than the GameCube and way behind its competitors, the Xbox 360 and PS3. It wasn't even an HD system. Nintendo was still in 480p land. This lack of power was overcome by some third-party developers who made some great games for the Wii, but a lot of core third-party titles skipped the Wii altogether, not because of sales numbers, but simply because of the lack of power. And some core third-party titles that did make it to the Wii had to downscale their graphics and cut some features out. So the Wii didn't become a popular choice for people looking for third-party games. And the more time went on, the more the Wii well really started to run dry, and the hype surrounding the system started to slow down. Also, the Wii was still region-locked, which became a very annoying restriction for people who wanted to play games released in Japan or Europe, but not in the States. I felt that annoyance of not being able to play Fatal Frame 4 without having to do a bunch of hacking and downloading that I and most people would rather not mess with. Also, voice chat was pretty poorly designed. The online component, while great for some games, was bad for others. The Wii used friend codes for adding friends online, which made adding friends more clunky and difficult than it needed to be, and the classic controllers weren't entirely wireless. They had to be plugged into the Wiimote in order to work, which seemed like a poor design choice when the Xbox 360 controllers were entirely wireless. So it would have been better if they had made their classic controllers similar to the GameCube Wavebird controllers, battery-powered standard controllers that just had you plug the other end into the console. Finally, this was something that hurt the Wii, or really just Nintendo in the long run, many core fans also didn't like how heavily it was marketed as a system for kids and families and old people. Call it superficial, but that's just part of what people were feeling. The marketing, along with the majority of successful games that were out for the Wii, contributed to its unfortunate reputation as a kiddie console, leading older core gamers to avoid it because they wanted to play more mature-rated games that the Wii didn't have, despite the mature-rated games the Wii did have. Those games should have proven that the reputation was unwarranted, but the Wii never really got out of that spot. The problems are made worse by a lot of games coming out for the Wii that got labeled shovelware. Basically low-budget, shallow games that relied solely on the motion controls and pointer controls. You could beat them in an hour, their graphics were mediocre even for the Wii, the kind of games that you got bored with after 5 minutes. So the Wii had a lot of great things about it. It sold well, and for all intents and purposes, it was a revolution. But it was also a flawed system that drove away a lot of core fans that Nintendo tried to win back with the Wii U, and we know how well that turned out. There are times where I wish Nintendo presented the Wii U as the Wii back in 2006, because the Wii U was an awesome system that unfortunately had terrible marketing, but system-wise, with everything it had, it probably would have done better as a Wii in 2006. An HD console with a gamepad, awesome Pro controllers, and motion control remotes, that would have made a killing in 06 probably. But what we got was a more family-focused console that was far behind the power curve and got stuck with a bad reputation, at least bad in the eyes of core gamers. I should also mention that Nintendo later released the Wii Mini, which was supposed to be a smaller, cheaper alternative at the cost of no GameCube compatibility and no online. It was a nice alternative for people who just wanted motion control gaming, but honestly, I think just buying the actual Wii was a better deal. It had a lot and was cheaper than everything else. Also, despite what I said about the Wii U being a better system than the Wii was a significant step for Nintendo, a company known for being innovative, for trying new things, for bringing people together, for focusing on getting smiles, and the Wii achieved all those things. So that was a look back at the life of the Nintendo Wii. If you'd like me to do a retrospective on the N64 and GameCube, let me know in the comments. Also let me know, what did you like or dislike about the Wii? Do you have some favorite games on the Wii? Let's talk in the comments, and I'll see you all next time in some pretty exciting videos coming soon. Bye!